Hello there, this is Shane Lambert. I blog about tennis at movietvtechgeeks.com. I also write about other topics like NHL hockey. I decided to do a all Open-Era Wimbledon draw. Who would the seeds be? So if the Open Era of men's tennis, it started in 1968. That's when the professionals and amateurs were allowed to start competing against one another. So what I did is I looked at all the players, athletes who have made the final of Wimbledon since that year, and I've looked at their Wimbledon credentials and tried to compile who would make a top 32 for an all-time Wimbledon tournament. Of course, with the math involved, some players just don't make it even though they made the final. So what I relied on heavily was just who the title counts, runner-up finishes. Later on, it's kind of the easy part is kind of finding the best players. The hard part is rounding out the bottom 5 or 6. For that, I had to start looking at semifinal appearances, and I even had to consider career high rankings, just for tie-breaking purposes, kind of when two guys look pretty much like the same player. In doing this, I also found there was some fuzziness because the players who, say you played in the 60s and early 70s, well, you played in both the Open Era and the era beforehand. How to count your credentials from the different eras was kind of troubling and tricky, but we'll go through it. So obviously the number 1 seed would be Roger Federer. He's got 7 titles. That's as many as Pete Sampras, but he's got 3 runner-ups, and he's also still active, so that could improve those totals. I did try to note who was still active because if you had similar credentials, for example, when we get towards the bottom of the list, we got Milos Raonic, who's been to a final, been to a semifinal. He's only 26, so somebody who has the same credentials that's retired and not coming back because he's in his 50s is Raonic has to be given the kind of the nod just because he's got maybe 6 more tournaments in his athletic prime that he can still contest and improve his totals with. So I made an adjustment there. But Roger Federer, number 1 seed. Pete Sampras, clear number 2 seed with the 7 titles. Then you have Bjorn Borg. So with Borg, he's got 5 Wimbledon titles and 1 runner-up, a loss to McEnroe. There's starts to debate some things like he got those 5 titles all while he was young. He never contested a single Grand Slam draw for singles. I don't even think for doubles, but he never contested a single Grand Slam draw after the age of 25. So here's Federer at the age of 35. And Federer still won a title in 2012. He's got titles after the age of 25. How many titles would Borg have won if he didn't retire early? You can ponder over that all day. I wouldn't. He just retired, and that basically defaults the tournaments in the future. It wasn't like he was Monica Seles stabbed in the back and that affected her career kind of deal. He retired. He can retire if he wants, of course, but I'm not going to make any adjustments for how good he was. Just take his totals at face value. 6 final appearances with 5 wins. And then next for the top 4 is Boris Becker. That's Djokovic's old coach. So he won the 3 titles, and what worked in his favor actually for improving his seeding was 4 runner-ups. The next group of 4 starts with Novak Djokovic. So you can see his credentials aren't actually better than McEnroe's, but I made the adjustment that Djokovic's still just 30. I don't think he's going to do well at Wimbledon this year, but we are seeing tennis players last longer. So with his ability, he's still probably got 3, maybe 4 chances to win at Wimbledon to do well, so he could yet make another final or 2, or maybe even add a title. He's good enough that he can surprise you at any time. Any draw he's in, he can win. Even he does not appear, in my opinion, to be having a good 2017, but that ship can be righted. So yeah, Djokovic with 3 titles and 1 runner-up. The runner-up loss was to Murray. Was that 2013? So next is John McEnroe, 3 titles, 2 runner-ups. Jimmy Connors, kind of a fuzzy issue, but he made 6 finals. That's more than McEnroe, but I gave the nod to McEnroe for the titles. But 2 titles and 4 runner-ups. And then next is Rafael Nadal, who's still active. And to be honest, I'm going to make an edit here. Part of me wants to actually put Nadal up to number 6, but I just can't quite do it. He's slumped at Wimbledon the last few years. The last time he made the final was 2011. It's been kind of some prize losses since then. Steve Darcis, Kyrgios before Kyrgios became a top 20 player. I don't remember all the other ones, but I still think there's enough in him that he's probably going to make another final in his career, and he might yet win it. So I'm going to put him above Jimmy Connors just because Nadal's still active and his totals are mid-career as opposed to end of career. The number 9 seed would be Andy Murray. Still active player, reigning champion. He's got 2 titles and 1 runner-up. Runner-up was the 2012 loss to Roger Federer. Potential for growth. He is a player that could move up the list if we look, or move up his seeding. Maybe if we looked at this 3-4 years from now. I don't know. It could be the beginning of the end of Murray here. I think getting to number 1 took a heck of a lot out of him. Something he accomplished in the latter half of last season mainly. And it's those ranking points right now that are buoying him in the rankings. He fell in the French Open semifinals. That was worse than his 2016 result. He fell in the middle round of the Australian Open. Could be the beginning of the end. But he could bounce back as well. I don't think there's a ton of potential for growth for him. I don't think he's going to make the final this year. And he's only getting older. But we'll see. Stefan Edberg, 2 titles, 1 runner-up. I gave Murray the nod with pretty much the same credential just because Murray's still active mid-career. Edberg's retired these 20 years. Rod Laver, he had 2 titles. Now this guy is kind of one of the difficult ones. Where to put him? Because I'm looking at the Open era, but his career bordered the Open era and the former era. So it's not, it's fuzzy. He could maybe deserve to be higher if I wasn't looking at the Open era, but I didn't want to start looking at that just because I'm not much of a student of the previous era, to be honest. I don't know a lot about it. Even though he's got worse credentials than Newcomb in terms of Newcomb made a runner-up, Laver beat Newcomb, so I considered that. It's these things are always debatable, but that's how I looked at it. Number 13 seed, Goran Ivanisevic. He won as a wild card. One of these players who kind of in a different time frame might have done better. There's guys that are like that. Like, you can look at Djokovic's 3 titles and how is it just he's great in his own right, or is he just lucky that he happened to fall in a pocket where there was no other great grass quarter in his prime? For example, Federer was out of his prime when Djokovic started winning the titles. Ivanisevic's main antagonist was Pete Sampras, so he had to go against the number 2 all-time great grass quarter, and that hurt him in 3 finals. But he did win a title, and he's got 3 runner-ups as well. Stan Smith, 1 title, 1 runner-up. Andre Agassi, 1 title, 1 runner-up. Maybe Agassi deserves to be over Smith. Maybe not. Andy Roddick is the first player to be seeded with, the highest seed without a title. So 3 runner-ups shoulda, coulda, woulda won in, that was 2009, I guess. Um, he places higher than some people with one title. And in my opinion, that's just an adjustment made for the fact that he had to face Federer. So when you got the best grass quarter of all time, right dead smack in all the prime draws of your life as well, that's going to hurt your totals. I think if Andy Roddick was, say, 25 to, or pardon me, in his prime right now, let's say 22 to 27, and he was playing right now, he might be the favorite to win this Wimbledon coming up. He might have won last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually a better grass quarter than Andy Murray. So there's kind of a consideration there. And on the other hand, you got to let the results speak for themselves too. It's part of the debatable issue. So the next four starts with Leighton Hewitt. He's got the one title, beat David Nalbandian in the early 2000s. Arthur Ashe, one title from a few decades ago, and then a couple runner-ups, Ivan Lendl and Ilie Nastase. They both former world number ones, never quite got it done at Wimbledon, but they were in a couple finals. Patrick Rafter comes next with two runner-ups, and well, pretty much the same credential as Lendl and Nastase ahead of him. But Rafter, I think he was only number one for 1 week. It might have been two, but I'm pretty sure he was just a 1 weeker. So when I kind of considered career high ranking when it comes to the peripheral players to see how much they deserve, and Rafter with 1 week at number one doesn't quite do it. Pat Cash, one title. Michael Steek, one title, and Richard Krajicek, one title. Maybe I could even put Krajicek over Steek, but I think Steek was a better player. But Krajicek, he's the only guy that beat Sampras, I think, in an 8-year window there. So that was an amazing tournament when he won. I believe that was '96. At this point, it started to have to look at not just runner-ups but semifinalists. So Jan Kodas, he got one title, one semifinal. He's the lowest seeded titleist. Next would be Ken Rosewall, two runner-ups. Jim Courier, former world number one, never quite did it at Wimbledon though. He just made one final. Comes in at number 27. Number 28, Nalbandian, who probably could have had a better career. It was a disappointing career in some ways. Early in his career, he was actually Roger Federer's kind of boogeyman. He even seemed to own Federer for a while, and that all got reversed in the latter stages. Never made number one, but did make the Wimbledon final. That was lost to Leighton Hewitt. So you see how that one result kind of hinges the seeding. If Nalbandian wins that and Hewitt loses, would put Nalbandian would be up at number 17 and Hewitt would be lower. Starts to get into some players who I don't totally know who they are. This Tony Rock, I probably have heard his name before, but I didn't really know who he was. He made one runner-up in two semifinals. He was number one in the era before the Open-Era. With Raonic, he's runner-up from last year, one semifinal. He avoided bubbling, just because he's 26. He could still, well, to be honest, I think I'll have to budge him up a bit. Not budged Raonic up to 29. Just 26 years old, so he's probably still going to make another final or semifinal, add to his credentials. He might even win. I don't, not too sure about that, but maybe when he's 28 and you got all these other guys that are kind of getting like Djokovic and Nadal and Murray, I would think Federer would be over the hill by then. They would all be getting into their mid-30s and maybe having troubles in the late rounds of Grand Slams. Roscoe Tanner, one runner-up, two semifinals, number 4 career high ranking. That career high ranking kind of got him in. When you look at some of the peripheral players on this list, there's some that they don't even get that high. Like they're number 5. I found one guy who never made it higher than number 19, despite making the Wimbledon final. Thomas Burdick, one runner-up, 2010 finalist, career high number 4 ranking. I didn't make much of an adjustment for the fact that he's still active, just because I think it's beginning of the end of Berdych as well too. He fell to catching off at the French Open. I did see that result coming, and I think it's kind of downhill for the Czech guy. But these are the guys who made the Wimbledon final in the Open-Era. Never won, but bubbled for the top 32 seeds. So if there was a 128 player seed, they would be unseeded. Cedric Pioline, one runner-up, high ranking of number 5. French player, he was good, hard worker, but never quite had it against the best players. Alex Matreveli, never knew who he was before I did this, high ranking number 9 with a runner-up at Wimbledon. Chris Lewis, there's a guy who high ranking of number 19, so that was a clear bubble. Kevin Curran, one runner-up, high ranking of number 5. Mal Washington, he's the worst grass quarter to make this list. One runner-up finish, that was a loss to Krajicek. His high ranking's number 11, but he only actually won 3 other matches at Wimbledon besides the 1996 tournament where he won 6. So he's the worst grass quarter to make the Wimbledon final, in my opinion. And then there's Philip Husis. He has one runner-up finish. Good player. But for the Wimbledon draw, he doesn't quite do it. His high ranking of number 8 kept him out. So there you have it. We'll take a look at all the seeds again. So there's the guys that would be seeded in an all Open-Era Wimbledon tournament. With Roger Federer, the best, and Thomas Berdych, the bubble. Alright, thank you very much. The photo credits will be to follow. You don't have to watch after this. There's no more tennis commentary, but I'm just giving the credits for the photo. Thank you. Bye-bye. So here's the photo credits of the ones that appeared in the previous 18 minutes here. Anything not appearing here that was in the footage, it's just my photo. Or like there was a Nadal photo on clay, I took that myself. Photos of me at Wimbledon I own. Those are, I don't know who took them, to be honest. But these photos, they're all Creative Commons. So just quickly, Wikipedia photo of Audrey Agassi, no author. Andy Murray by si.robbie. Andy Roddick by Rob Young. Andy Roddick by Kareen06. Arthur Ashe by National Archive Photo Collecti and IFO. Bjorn Borg by C. Thomas. Boris Beckert by ManDJ98. That's going to be a username. Goran Ivanisevic, Creative Commons. There was an author listed as Goromat. Ilya Nastasi by that same National Archive. Yvonne Lendl, National Archive. Jimmy Condors, National Archive. John McEnroe, National Archive. John Newcomb, copyright expired, unknown photographer. Leighton Hewitt, si.roby. Michael Steek, out of the Creative Commons, no author found. Novak Djokovic, Kareen06. Pat Cash, Tourism Victoria. Patrick Rafter, Tourism Victoria. Pete Sampras by James Phelps. Rafael Nadal by Tourism Victoria. Richard Krajicek by Kiko Pyrus. Rod Laver, National Archive. Roger Federer by username Squeaky Knees. Stan Smith by Robbie Mendelson. And Stefan Edberg by Robin Fritzen. Okay, thank you.